尊敬的卢司长，尊敬的楚司长，尊敬的蔡所长，尊敬的Jorge Lopez Porto研究员，尊敬的 Vernie Budi Arifate 研究员，线上和现场的嘉宾朋友们，大家下午好。我是北京市企业家环保基金会的王静，非常高兴今天作为大会的主持人。2023全球滨海论坛红树林生态保护修复专题研讨会现在开始。本次研讨会是在自然资源部国土空间生态修复司的指导下召开。首先，请允许我有请自然资源部国土空间生态修复司副司长卢丽华博士致开幕词。有请卢司长。
尊敬的各位来宾、各位同事、女士们、先生们、中外朋友们，很高兴与大家相聚在美丽的盐城，同济一堂，共同谋划红树林保护修复的新篇章。首先，我谨代表自然资源部国土空间生态修复司，对本次专题研讨会的召开表示热烈的祝贺，对出席研讨会的来宾表示诚挚的欢迎。红树林是热带、亚热带、海岸带、海陆交错区生产能力最高的海洋生态系统之一，在净化海水、防风消浪、维持生物多样性、固碳储碳等方面发挥着极其重要的作用，被称为海洋卫士、海洋绿肺。近年来，中国红树林保护修复取得积极进展，但红树林面积偏小、生境退化、生物多样性降低、外来生物入侵等问题还比较突出。中国政府高度重视红树林保护修复工作。习近平总书记在厦门工作时就亲自抓红树林保护，多次就红树林保护修复作出重要指示批示。今年4月10号，总书记在广东湛江红树林国家级自然保护区视察时强调，红树林是国宝，要像爱护眼睛一样守护好。总书记的系列指示、批示精神和隐隐嘱托，为我们做好红树林保护修复工作指明了方向，提供了根本遵循。2020年8月，自然资源部、国家林草局联合印发红树林保护修复专项行动计划，全面部署红树林保护修复工作。我们加大了红树林整体保护力度，组织实施红树林保护修复重大工程，持续完善法律制度，强化规划引领，建立健全保护修复标准体系，不断提升红树林生态系统动态监测能力，指导广东、广西、海南、福建、浙江等南方5省区认真落实各项重点行动，指导我国首个蓝碳交易项目广东湛江红树林造林项目签约，示范引导社会资本投入海洋碳汇领域。刚刚深圳传来最新的消息，深圳红树林蓝碳交易成功竞拍，竞拍的价格达到了每吨485元，而且是由深圳市的一个佳化美容品有限公司竞得。目前，中国红树林面积已达到43.8万亩，比本世纪初增加了约10.8万亩，是世界上少数几个红树林面积净增长的国家之一。此外，国家林草局、自然资源部、深圳市人民政府积极创建深圳国际红树林中心，加大红树林保护国际交流合作和宣传教育。但在专项行动推进中，我们也遇到了一些问题和困难，比如后续营造任务重、落地难，营造质量和后期管护力度有待加强，外来红树植物有扩散入侵趋势等， 这就需要我们积极探索人与自然和谐共生的红树林营造修复新路径，加强红树林外来物种管理，建立红树林营造项目后期管护长效机制。希望本次研讨会能够就这些问题开展深入而广泛的交流，寻求有效的解决方案。今年7月召开的全国生态环境保护大会上，习近平总书记系统部署了全国推进美丽中国建设的战略任务和重大举措，强调坚持陆海统筹、河海联动，持续推进重点海域综合治理，协同推进近海海域污染防治、生态保护修复和岸滩环境整治，不断提升红树林等重要海洋生态系统质量和稳定性。我们要以习近平生态文明思想为指引，牢记总书记关于红树林保护的系列重要指示批示，持之以恒，久久为功，守护好、修复好国宝，不断提升红树林生态系统多样性、稳定性、持续性，助力滨海地区高质量发展，为建设人与自然和谐共生的现代化做出积极贡献。最后，预祝本次论坛取得圆满成功，谢谢大家。
非常感谢卢司长精彩的开幕致辞。下面有请主办方代表、自然资源部第3海洋研究所所长蔡峰研究员讲话。
尊敬的卢司长、楚司长，各位国内外嘉宾、女士们、先生们，大家下午好！非常感谢大家拨程出席红树林生态保护与修复专题研讨会。首先，我谨代表会议主办方，对出席本次研讨会的领导和嘉宾表示诚挚的欢迎。本次会议是在自然资源部国土空间生态修复司的指导下，由自然资源部第3海洋研究所和北京市企业家环保基金联合会主办，自然资源部北部湾海洋生态环境野外观测研究站承办，上海蚂蚁森林生态绿色发展基金会为本次会议提供了特别的支持。在此，对指导单位和联合办会单位的支持和帮助表示诚挚的感谢。红树林生长于海陆交界的生态过渡地带，是全球生产力最高、生物多样性最丰富的生态系统之一。保护和修复红树林等滨海湿地，提升滨海湿地生态系统碳汇等生态功能，已经成为全球应对气候变化的重要举措。本次研讨会，我们将聚焦于红树林保护修复主题，在报告环节邀请了来自墨西哥生态研究所、印度尼西亚国家研究创新署、佛罗里达国际大学和自然资源部第3海洋研究所的专家学者，共同分享红树林生态修复案例、红树林生态保护修复成就、红树林生态系统碳汇等方面的研究成果。在对谈环节将围绕各方力量如何参与红树林保护修复，推动红树林生态保护领域国际合作等，开展深入的研讨。今天的研讨会汇集了国家行政主管部门、科研院所、社会公益组织等在红树林保护修复中承担不同职责与任务的机构和单位，希冀通过会议分享讨论，进一步加强各方在红树林生态修复领域的合作，推动社会公益力量 深度参与红树林的保护与修复，并为全球和区域尺度红树林保护修复和南太生态系统提升做出更为积极的贡献。最后，祝各位参会领导和嘉宾身体健康，一切顺利。在会议期间，如有任何需要，请直接联系我们，我们将真诚做好服务。再次感谢大家，预祝本次研讨会取得圆满成功。谢谢大家。
非常感谢蔡所代表主办方的精彩发言。接下来进入主旨报告的环节，我们将有来自中国、墨西哥、印尼和美国的4个报告，为大家呈现不同的地区、国家在红树林保护管理、种植修复，还有多利益相关方，参与红树林保护等等方面的一些努力。首先有请来自墨西哥生态研究所高级研究员 Dr. Jorge Lopez Portu 为我们带来基于水文和地貌恢复的红树林生态修复报告。有请 Dr. Portu。
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation for the third Institute of Oceanography in the Ministry of Natural Resources, and support by the Society of Entrepreneurs and Ecology, SEE. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So I will start, and I will deal on the mangrove ecological restoration based on the restoration of hydrology and topography. First, we have a problem of massive mangrove death and impairment in many places in the world. In particular, in the Gulf of Mexico, all these white spots that you see there are areas that are dying. Small spots that begin to be bigger, and that sometimes they die, or they are susceptible to insect damage. Each site has to be care of, and I'm going to present you one case, and it deals with the Ramsar site 1602. That is very near Tuxpan City. You see the Tuxpan River there, which is very important. That's where the fresh water comes in, and the sea comes in through that inlet that you see there to the lagoon on the left, which is on the north, which is the Tampamachoco Lagoon. That's a power plant. And this power plant, when it was made, there were 3 causeways that were erected to put the power lines. You can see them right below this white area. You can see that to the right of the image, there is a preserved mangrove forest, and to the left, there is an area in white that is mass mortality, and then one which is not as white, which is subjected to chronic damages. And this was mainly due to the interruption of water flow that affected the northern part. So the southern part, which is on the right, is in good conditions, is preserved, whereas the northern part, which is at the left, is dying. And this is due to the embankments for the electrical towers. This is the sequence of events and the interruption that we made in this lagoon, which is called Tampamachoco. The construction of the power plant began in 1984, and in 1987, 88, and 89, the embankments were constructed. That's when the flow began to be stopped, and then the power plant started in 1991, and in the year 2000. 9 years after, there was like a chronic damage, and then we begin to find massive mortality. In 2012, we opened channels, which are seen on the right side, and we expanded them in 2014 and 2015, and in 2019, we have to establish a direct connection to the lagoon. So this is the sequence of events. This is the reference mangrove. It's black mangrove. It's about 3 meters high, or 4. And this, you can see that below there's these aerial roots that are called pneumatophores. And they are very important because that's the way the trees breathe here. And this is an impaired mangrove. You see that the pneumatophores are not more there, and a massive death of trees. And that massive death of trees is associated with the loss of soil. So the most organic living part, which is the HI and HE horizons, are lost. And this is at least 10 centimeters that are eroded. And so to stop this death, we first reestablished the flow with this cross-sectional excavation with machinery. And you see that what is the blue lines show the way. And after restoring the water flows, there was some recruitment. You can see that there's some effect. There's some colonization there. And some low branch refoliation of the trees that were not completely dead. But there was no extensive recovery. So we must deal with the lack of water circulation and soil erosion together. So this is to show you how the preserved zone looks. There's a transition zone that is dying, and then the preserved zone on the left of this image, and the massive mangrove death. So what the second step was to do a topographical analysis, and then based on the topography to make and follow the preferential flows, as you can see with channels. And to do this, we counted on the support of the community of Barra Galindo, and they did dig 3 meter wide and 1 meter deep channels into the mangrove forest. That's by hand and very carefully so that we don't kill too many trees. And also to solve the problem of the soil elevation, they made 4 centimeters high, which is what we lost, and 5 meter wide islets, as you can see, with the dead wood, and then soil over the dead wood as a matrix. And for the area of massive mortality, we used a caterpillar, and this caterpillar in 2 weeks made 2,000 meters of main channels with 1 meter deep and 3 meter wide. It was very fast. When the machine does that, you get soil deposited at the side of the channels. These raised edges are not very good for the restoration, so the community leveled these raised edges to 30 to 40 centimeters above the current soil level, just making islets, but longer. And so this is, in synthesis, what we did. We made these channels. The channels produced edges. The edges were leveled. And we constructed islets and made channels to connect the lagoon, which is in the lower part, with the dead plant, because the problem was that there was no tide coming into the dead mangrove, and that's why there was a high salinity. Well, this is what it looked like after we made the islets and the channels. And this is what happened about 1.5 years after. We have a very high regeneration. So this is how it looks, how it looked in 2022, and we are looking for money to extend the channels to the other part that is affected, and to keep everything under control, and to densify the islets, the number of islets, because we didn't have enough resources to do that, and we can talk about later. What are the indicators of success? You can see that everything is green. So the interstitial salinity, this is how it looked. You see that the salinity should increase from the lower part, where is the preserved site, to the higher part, to the northern part, which is in the transition. But we have an inverted. In the intermediate part, because it was between the causeways, the salinity was elevated. It was very large. We had salinities that were about 140 parts per thousand, 140 grams per liter. And this is after we made the direct connection to the lagoon. You can see that the red dots are now below, the salinity is below the preserve area. So that's a good news. We don't have this concentration of salts anymore in the middle part. We have sent, we have this following monitoring from 2011 to 2023, and we can see that there is a trend. Of course, there's a lot of variability that has to do with monthly changes, but the mean salinity decreased by more or less 10 grams per liter, which is 10,000 per thousand. It's very good. And the mean water level increased by 5 centimeters. Some of it has to do with water increase due to climate change. We don't know how much. Concerning the sulfide concentration, which is another good indicator, it decreased. Salinity it causes death, but sulfide is worse, because the sulfide is like a physiological, like a metabolical venom. It just killed the flora, the fauna, and the roots themselves. So there was a great decrease. In concerning plant density and survival, you can see how it looked after we finished the channel edges, and some of the green dots there are the propagules, and this is in 2020, about 6 months after. And this is in 2022. You can see that the density at first on the left side, you can see the seedlings that we got as much as 40 individuals per meter square. The juveniles started at that density, and the density has decreased, but the height of the tree has increased. And this is a photograph of September 2022. These are higher now, about 2 meters. So we're getting success in concerning the condition of the trees, and the trees are very green and very in good condition. So this is how it looks like. And what happens with that is that the islets begin to coalesce. And this coalescence is a consequence of the increase of the area of each one of the islands and the perimeter. So the perimeter turns from a rounded part to a elongated part. Okay. So what is the effect of sediment elevation? Why can the plant grow so much? And we can see that the original soil level is there on the white line, below the white line, and above that, about 13 centimeters is what we filled in the islets. And on the left, you can see that the redox potential was decreased, increased in the higher soil. Even if it's flooded, the oxygen content, which is indicated by the redox potential, is higher. So the roots are under better conditions and can then take nutrients in an oxidized form. Concerning litter fall, you can see that there was a big difference between the preserve and in transition areas. You have every part there: the leaves, the branches, the flowers, and the seedlings. And at first, there was very low production in the transition area. The productivity has increased, and on the right side, you can see that the trend is there. There is an increase in in total little 4, but we still don't have a significant, we still don't have a convergence between the two places, the two conditions. So there's, preserved mangrove sites have significantly more litter fall production than affected one. There's other indicators of biodiversity, for example, birds. The species accumulation curves in these 4 years 5 years of sampling indicates that in the preserved zone we have like 80 species, whereas in the dead zone we have like 100 species. We have 20 species more, and this is a consequence of the different microhabitats that lead to greater biodiversity. So if you have a mangrove that doesn't have so much empty places between the islets, that is a place that can be used by other species. There was a total of 151 species up to now, with 6,081 individuals, and these are the most common. You can also classify them for the ecological niche they occupy, from the fish feeder to the dabbler or the wader. Each one of them have different feeding strategies and different peaks and sizes. Each one occupies a specific niche. So there are many niches, even in what's supposed to be a very homogeneous environment. So in conclusion, I think that the main conclusion here is that in this mangrove, the ultimate key was directly connecting the impaired areas to tidal flow. Any mangrove that dies, the first culprit is tidal flow. You need tides to feed the mangrove. If the tides do not exist, then you will get a dead mangrove. And there's, I think that with that, I want to thank you, Xie, and I'm open to questions. Thank you. Okay.
非常感谢Portillo 博士。Portillo 博士精彩的报告一下子把我拉回到了学生时代，让我想起来当年上课的时候，我的老师在给我们讲解这个修复过程中，然后做好土壤碳汇，如何来做分层和测量的工作。我觉得这也是我们滨海论坛的一个魅力，就是不只有国际化的交流，同时的话还有很多知识分享给大家。那么红树林的修复，首先需要考虑的是修复区域的水文条件。Dr. Portillo 博士为我们展示了墨西哥湾一个非常好的红树林修复案例，再次感谢。下面有请自然资源部第三海洋研究所陈光诚研究员为我们带来中国红树林生态修复现状与成效的报告。有请陈光诚研究员。
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here and share some information of the effectiveness of efforts of mangrove conservation and restoration in China. Okay. Nowadays, the climate change is a crisis to threaten our ecological and ecosystem where we are depending on. And to enhance the existing biological carbon pool and carbon sequestration capacity is a pathway to address the global warming potential. Because of the importance of mangrove in providing the ecosystem service, ecosystem functions, and the conservation of mangrove is identified as a very useful tool to address these climate change problems. In China, the mangrove extent distributes along the coast in the southern part from the Zhejiang province and to the more south area, the Hainan province. And the latest extent of the mangrove in China is around 29,000 hectares in China. And despite the small area occupied by the mangrove in China, it provides a high biodiversity, and we have a totally of 37 mangrove species in China and more than 800 microbenthos species in China. In history, the mangrove in China was subject to substantial losses due to the conversion of the mangrove to other land uses, such as agricultural lands and marine culture and also the redstone area. But nowadays, the mangrove in China is subject to strictly protection. And since 1926, the new reclamation of the coastal wetlands is strictly forbidden, and only those projects subject to the national strategic goals are allowed. So this is the status of our coastal wetland protection in China. And meanwhile, the establishment and construction of mangrove marine protect area is continuing, and up to now we have a total of 79 protect area of mangroves, and almost 60% of the mangrove area are within the marine protect areas. And we also have another protect mechanism, namely ecological conservation red line area. And as you was told yesterday, more than 90% of the mangroves fall within the ecological conservation red line area. And in recent years, the climate change problem is attracting the global attention, and we are happy that Chinese government has identified conservation of the mangrove ecosystem and as well as other blue carbon ecosystems as solutions for the climate change in national determined contribution in China. And we has proposed to enhance the carbon sequestration capacity of mangrove, seagrass, and salt marsh so as to protect and restore our existing blue carbon, their capacity of the carbon sequestration. And besides these strategies, incentives such as the financial support and the social capital participation have also been developed, and the regulations of marine protection and restoration has been continually improved, not only the central government, the state level, but also in some province, they have their regulations of mangrove protection. And this incentive and regulation effectively promote the protection and the restoration activities in China. And this strategy provides opportunities in China for mangrove, like enhance the carbon sea and promote the carbon market and restoration projects, and also the financial investment. And in 2022, national plans for the coastal wetlands conservation and restoration was released. One is the master plan for the national key ecosystem protection and restoration major projects, which identified 9 major ecological protection restoration projects before 2035, covering 6 key ecosystem areas, including the coastal zone. Coastal zone is one of the ecosystem area. And in the same year, the special action plan for mangrove protection and restoration of China was also released and identified 7 key actions to promote the conservation and restoration of mangrove in China. And in this action plan, we propose a goal to restore the mangrove by 80,000 hectares, and which includes the plantation of 9,000 hectares of mangrove in China before 2025. As a result, we have totally up to 2021 in the coastal area. China has carried out 58 Blue Bay projects and 24 coastal zone protection and restoration projects. And in between the year 2016 and 2022, a total of 1,500 kilometers of coastline has been restored, and more than 30,000 hectares of coastal wetlands were restored. Since we overview the mangrove projects supported by the former State of Oceano Administration and the Ministry of Natural Resources, a total of 45 projects have been supported to restore the mangrove in between the year 2010 and 2025. And you can see from the figure that since the release of the mangrove action plan, the increase of the mangrove restoration projects has been since the year 2020. And in recent years, the scale and of the projects also increased substantially for the mangrove restoration. So this is our efforts on the mangrove conservation and restoration. And most of the mangrove restorations are focused on the forestation on the mudflat, where mangrove in the mudflat and where mangrove has been cleared, and also reforestation in the marine culture ponds that we have already cleaned up the cultural activities, and also we planted mangroves in the core grass clearance and the places, and also some degraded mangrove. And those. At the same time, the ministry and the former state also provide the guidance of mangrove restoration by the national standard and the industrial standard and the normative documents such as the guidebook for the mangrove restoration. And in this guidebook, we also cite the case of the hydrological restoration in Mexico. So, due to the efforts of all the stakeholders in China, we are happy to see that China is among the few countries with a net increase in its mangrove extent. And our area has increased from the 22,000 hectares in the year 2020, and now we have 29,000 hectares of mangrove area. And due to the conservation and restoration and the increase of the mangrove extent in China, we also obtained the carbon sequestration and the carbon sink in China. And during the past 2 years, most of the cities that the mangrove holding cities experience increase in their mangrove extents in China. So this is the efforts of our mangrove conservation and restoration projects. As we know, the carbon market mechanism is a very useful tool to facilitate mangrove conservation and restoration projects. And since the year 2021, the first blue carbon project in China was traded. Nowadays, in many cities in China, we are developing the carbon projects in China by the WCF scene. But since last year, the Chinese government is making efforts to relaunch the China certificate emission reduction, so as to promote the voluntary carbon market. So in this year, they call for the methodology of the carbon projects. Fortunately, the methodology of mangrove restoration that we submit was accepted and is now under approval. So we believe this will be released soon and will further take effects to promote our mangrove conservation and restoration in the future. Not only the investment from the government, but we have many enterprises that were interested in the ecosystem conservation that also invest the mangrove conservation, though the civil societies involved in the mangrove conservation. One of the very good example is the Saronia Sea Initiative, which gathering the funds from enterprises, from other private sectors to invest in the blue carbon ecosystem conservation and restoration. So this is my some brief information on the mangrove in conservation in China. So I would like to end my presentation by some suggestions to promote our future collaborations on the mangrove conservation. Thank you. Yeah. I would like to thank our partners also. Thank you.
非常感谢陈老师精彩的报告。中国是世界上少数几个红树林增长的国家，离不开政府强有力的管理和社会各方的努力。陈老师的报告为我们展示了中国在这方面的多方努力，再次感谢陈老师。下面有请来自印尼国家研究创新署首席研究员 Dr. Vernie Budi Arifanti 博士，为我们带来红树林蓝碳在印度尼西亚生态系统碳汇中的作用。有请 Dr. Arifanti。
Excuse me. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me in this very important event. So I would like to share our experience on mangrove blue carbon ecosystems in Indonesia's forest and land use or follow net sink. Okay, how do I go? Okay. So we know that blue carbon ecosystems such as mangroves, seagrass, and salt marshes, they provide very important climate change mitigation and adaptation benefits for our ecosystems. And we know that these ecosystems provide a habitat for fishes, and also as feeding nurseries, and also they can protect our coastlines and also stabilize and filter the water pollutions, and they also provide livelihood for the coastal communities. So with all of these benefits of the blue carbon ecosystems, we need to have our protection and conservation of our precious blue carbon ecosystems. And how about our Indonesia's mangroves? So we are blessed that we have the largest mangrove cover in the world for about 3.3 million hectares, or this is about 23% of the world's mangrove cover in the world. And with that, Indonesia stores for about 1/3 of the coastal blue carbon in the world. And we also have for about 43 tropical mangrove species in Indonesia, and that covers for about 80% of the whole tropical mangrove species in the world. And about our national climate policy and target, we all know that all countries have ratified the Paris Agreement back in 2015, and Indonesia has also ratified the Paris Agreement to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And just last year, we have submitted our enhanced nationally determined contributions, where we increased our ambitions to reduce the emission targets for about 31.89% under the countermeasure 1, or this is with our national funding. But if we have other international funding, we will increase our ambition to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 43.2% by 2030. And with that, we also have just recently launched a new ambition to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions only from the forestry and land use sector, what we call the FOLU net sink. That is the target to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions from the forestry sector for about 140 million tons of CO2 by 2030. And with this FOLU net sink, the aim is to support the net zero emissions that have been targeted to be achieved by 2060 or earlier. And these are the several programs under the Forest and Land Use Net Sink program by 2030, where mangrove ecosystems is part of the very important ecosystem that will be targeted under this program. So here we can see that one of the activities for mangroves are reduction in mangrove deforestation and also reduction of mangrove degradation. So we separate between mangrove deforestation and mangrove degradation. And then we will also do mangrove rehabilitation and afforestation projects, and also, of course, conservation of biodiversity in mangrove ecosystems. And these are the basic principles what we have so far in terms of mangrove conservation and rehabilitation strategies. So we have already regulations for protecting and managing our mangroves, and also we have also implementing programs how to restore and to conserve our remaining mangroves. And one of the targets of our conservation strategy is to increase the new mangrove conservation areas by 6 conservation areas by 2024. And we would like also to increase the conservation areas for mangroves for about 87 areas by 2045. So with the so we will add it for about 413,000 hectares, more or less, by 2045. So with these new conservation areas in mangrove ecosystem, we hope to achieve the targets in reducing the greenhouse gas emissions from the mangrove ecosystem. And these are several principles that we take into account when considering mangrove rehabilitation. So we see that mangrove rehabilitation is a part to increase the welfare of the coastal community, because we think that no project will be achieved when the communities are not the welfare or the livelihood of the communities are not increased. So, welfare of the communities is something that we need to take into account when we do the rehabilitation activities. And then second, mangrove management is considered as part of climate change mitigation. And then we also collaborate with various stakeholders, whether it is national stakeholders and also global stakeholders, to ensure the mangrove sustainability in Indonesia. And also, in terms of regulations, we encourage the strengthening of the legal protection of mangrove management. And we would also like to provide to make new regulations on the moratorium of mangrove conversion, because mangrove conversion is very severe in our country. So we are now moving on to making new regulations on the moratorium of mangrove conversion. And also we need also to use various financing resources that we could get in order to protect and to rehabilitate our mangrove ecosystem. And these are several rehabilitation projects that have been conducted so far by Indonesia. But these targets are considered too low because we have a very large amount of mangrove that needs to be rehabilitated. So the Indonesian government has targeted to restore our mangroves for about 600,000 from 2021 to 2024. So just comparing with what Professor Chen has said, that China has a target to restore 18,800. So we have like 600,000, so it's very ambitious, And yeah, we hope that we can achieve this target by 2024. But then early this year, there is a new paper on who criticized the target of Indonesia's ambition to restore the 600,000 hectares. So based on this article, on this paper, so from the 600,000, only 30% is actually eligible to be rehabilitated. So only 193,000 hectares of the mangrove in Indonesia is eligible for restoration with regard to the status of the forest land, because the status should be clean and clear, and that is the most difficult component that needs to be achieved before we can do any restoration activities, and also considering the biogeomorphology, the hydro period, and so on. But the take-home message from this paper is that mangrove restoration programs have a greater chance of being successful when implemented in areas where mangroves have previously grown. And we also have Indonesia, under the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, we have also launched the Mangrove Rehabilitation Roadmap from 2021 to 2030, where all aspects of the enabling conditions, the implementation activities, and also the exit strategy of mangrove management and mangrove rehabilitation have been put in this roadmap. And Indonesia has also developed a large scale of mangrove nursery in Indonesia, and the biggest nursery of mangrove has been launched last year during the G20 meeting in Bali. As you can see here in the picture, these are the nurseries that have been established by our government, also with the help of other donors from international donors, to secure our rehabilitation projects. And these are several activities what have been done so far. So we would like to increase our mangrove conservation areas, as I have said beforehand. And also, we also encourage the ecotourism in several areas, especially in mangrove degraded areas, because ecotourism have shown to have a very positive impact to the local community. When the local community can manage these mangrove areas for ecotourism, they can obtain also increased income, and at the same time they can conserve the mangrove in their areas. And also we empower the community to produce other products from mangroves, such as, for example, for making syrups, making flour, for making bread or cookies, and also for making dyes for our batik clothes. And then my research that have been published last year, we have analyzed the several mitigation activities in Indonesia, and we concluded that if we only do the restoration, only do the planting, the restoration activities will only contribute for about 1.4% to the Indonesia's target for its NDC by 2030, only 1.4%. But if we conserve and avoid mangrove deforestation and degradation in Indonesia, it will contribute for about 6.5% to our target, to our NDC target by 2030. So the best solution is to combine the protection and also to restore, restoring our mangrove. So if this combination of protection and also the rehabilitation will be conducted in Indonesia, it will contribute for about 7.8 or 8% to our NDC by 2030. So the take-home message of this research is actually that if our government is now very focused on mangrove replanting, but we need to consider that also conserving the remaining mangroves is much more important than planting alone. So what we have to do is to combine the protection and also to rehabilitate the degraded mangroves. And then these are, to conclude, these are several points that probably could be taken into consideration for sustainable mangrove management. So we need to strengthen the regulations and law enforcement on mangrove management. And also we need to avoid mangrove deforestation and degradation by conserving our remaining mangroves. And also we have to restore our degraded mangroves. And more important also, we have to do research, development, and come up with new innovations on mangrove management. And then at the national policy, we would also like to mainstream mitigation and adaptation strategies for mangrove ecosystems. And then we would like to also increase the involvement and capacity building of the local communities in mangrove management. And then we also need to come up with new environment-friendly aquaculture, such as silver fisheries, and also ecotourism or non-timber forest products from mangrove ecosystems. So with all these measures, we hope to maintain our mangrove ecosystems in Indonesia and probably throughout the world as well. So with that, I would like to end my presentation, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
非常感谢 Arifati 博士精彩的报告。印尼是我们重要的合作伙伴，在由 SE 基金会和蚂蚁森林基金会我们共同发起的蓝色伙伴关系行动中，首期2轮的这个招募，主要是支持中国东盟国家开展相关的海洋保护工作。那么10个项目里面，我们印尼的伙伴就有4个，其中有3个就是支持红树林的保护工作。那么 Arifati 博士的话，从红树林作为这个固碳储碳是红树林一个非常重要的生态系统服务功能的角度出发，为我们介绍了蓝碳的概念以及它重要的价值，从蓝碳角度来展示了印尼在红树林保护修复方面的一些计划以及相关的努力。再次感谢 Arifati 博士。下面有请佛罗里达国际大学副教授 Tiffany Tollex 博士为我们带来红树林支持全球负排放目标实现的海岸带蓝碳生态系统。那么Tollex 博士因为个人原因呢，临时改为线上。那么下面有请 Tollex 博士。
and Director of Science in the Sea Level Solutions Center in the Institute of Environment at Florida International University in Miami, Florida, US of A. I also serve as chair of the International Long-Term Ecological Research Network, representing the Florida Coastal Everglades. Hello, thank you for the invitation to join you today, if only by video presentation. I'm sorry I couldn't join you in person. My name is Tiffany Troxler. I'm an associate professor in the Department of Earth and Environment and Director of Science in the Sea Level Solutions Center in the Institute of Environment at Florida International University in Miami, Florida, US of A. I also serve as chair of the International Long-Term Ecological Research Network, representing the Florida Coastal Everglades LTR site in the U.S. network. So we know that mangroves are among the coastal ecosystems that we think of as blue carbon ecosystems because they have the capacity to sequester and store carbon from the atmosphere long term. Other ecosystems that we consider as part of those blue carbon ecosystems include tidal marshes and seagrass meadows as well as macroalgae and open water systems. Today our discussion will focus on vegetated ecosystems and mangrove ecosystems in particular. What do we know about these blue carbon ecosystems and how they contributed to massive accumulation of organic soils as peat along large extents of the world's coastlines? We know that over time a slow increase in sea level contributed to the progradation or inland movement and advancement of coastal wetland environments to result in a global distribution of coastal wetlands, with mangroves predominantly occupying lower latitudes and tidal marshes more widely distributed but with greater distribution in mid to high latitudes. We know that as vegetated coastal ecosystems and the allocation of roots below ground and turnover of roots and rhizomes and salt marsh grasses add significant carbon to the soil. While there is variation in the fraction of below ground organic material that is preserved, it can be around 10% of the material that is lignin or lignified. High below ground allocation, low oxygen conditions, and contributions of lignified material help to build up these massive accumulations. This became a research topic of significant interest, in particular when comparing carbon stocks across different ecosystems, with average carbon storage in mangrove ecosystems well outcompeting that of tropical and boreal forests. Importantly, regional to local conditions control the rates of carbon accumulation and carbon partitioning among above ground and below ground biomass and soils, both within ecosystem types, for instance between mangroves of low and high productivity, or across different types of ecosystems, with mangroves supporting higher contributions of more refractory woody material than tidal marshes and seagrass meadows. Considering blue carbon ecosystems and mangroves in particular, in the context of climate change mitigation, soil carbon accumulation is the key attribute. Mangroves on average bury about 225 grams of carbon per meter squared per year, and is estimated at up to nearly 1 gigaton of CO2 buried per year across the globe. Given the high rates of wetland conversion to other land uses that have been reported, large rates of avoided emissions are also possible to achieve with conservation of mangroves and other blue carbon ecosystems. Despite the fact that slow rates of sea level rise contributed to the development of coastal wetland ecosystems worldwide, accelerated rate of sea level increase has been raised as a driver of coastal wetland vulnerability. While there would be variation among sites, a recent analysis of U.S. carbon accumulation suggested that sea level was promoting soil accretion and carbon accumulation. But we also know that the past does not predict the future, and the issue of sea level rise continues to be an important research topic among other uncertainties that have been recognized. To address U.S. coastal blue carbon ecosystem potential and to explore some of these uncertainties, costs and benefits, and research needs in the context of a wider portfolio of negative emissions technologies, the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine took on the recommended work of exploring research and development investments that could improve methods of carbon dioxide removal and reliable sequestration at scales that matter, in particular to minimize energy and materials consumption, identify and quantify risks, lower costs, and develop reliable sequestration and monitoring. And following the work, to address the need for a detailed research and development agenda to assess benefits, risks, and sustainable scale potential. In terms of blue carbon ecosystems, coastal blue carbon ecosystems, the committee developed a research agenda that identified 5 management practices in different phases of readiness to increase carbon dioxide removal. These are active ecosystem management, restoration and creation, nature-based adaptation, managed wetland transgression, and augmentation with carbon-rich materials. In the context of a wider portfolio that included review of negative emissions technologies like direct air capture, geological sequestration, and terrestrial carbon removal, the study's conclusion stated the cost of carbon removal is low because these projects target other benefits such as ecosystem services and coastal resilience and adaptation. Understanding of the impacts of sea level rise, coastal management, and other climate impacts on future uptake rates should be improved. The potential for total U.S. cumulative carbon sequestration, implementing actions to advance all 5 management practices over the next 40 years in the study was estimated at nearly 3 gigatons of carbon dioxide. While the annual gains are relatively low compared to other types of negative emissions technologies, technical readiness of coastal blue carbon ecosystems as a negative emissions technology is immediate, with the corresponding increase in provision of coastal blue carbon ecosystem services being significant. Among those include the permanence of soil carbon that is stored. While some studies illustrate, for example, that coastal wetland soil carbon accumulation increases with sea level rise, some modeling suggests that very high rates of sea level rise can result in the loss of coastal wetland area and storage capacity. The ability to manage coastal wetlands, conserve them in the face of wetland transgression, is a coastal management issue that requires local to regional and public to private cooperation. Amplification of methane and other greenhouse gases with greenhouse gas fluxes with temperature or increasing atmospheric carbon dioxide is also among important research topics. Other research areas identified were understanding new ways to recover carbon stocks where they have been lost, and social barriers and/or incentives to promote coastal blue carbon ecosystem conservation, management, and recovery of soil carbon. The study also recognized that these research gaps can be addressed with more demonstration projects under different coastal ecogeomorphological settings and robust monitoring networks, as is exemplified by the USGS Coastal Louisiana Coastwide Reference Monitoring System, among others. I hope this presentation shared some of the exciting opportunities to enhance coastal blue carbon ecosystems, their soil carbon accumulation potential, and their ecosystem services for mangroves in particular. Please feel free to contact me with questions or interest in collaboration using my email address. Thank you all, and I wish you productive discussions.
非常感谢 Tolex 博士，很遗憾他没有到场，他也跟大会主办方表示，希望下一次能够如约到达我们盐城来支持我们的论坛。那么接下来将进入研讨会的第3部分，平行对话环节。红树林的修复和保护离不开社会各界的共同努力。对话环节，我们将邀请来自政府科研院所代表、国际组织代表、社会公益组织代表，共同就社会公益参与蓝碳生态系统保护修复展开对话。那么，下面有请沙发可以上来。 下面非常荣幸的有请世界自然保护联盟中国代表处张岩主任作为本次对话的主持人。同时，我们荣幸的邀请到了来自自然资源部第三海洋研究所副所长陈斌研究员、印尼国家研究创新署首席研究员 Verni Budi Arifati 博士，上海蚂蚁森林生态绿色发展基金会窦瑞副秘书长，墨西哥生态研究所高级研究员 Jorge Lopez Portillo 博士。有请各位嘉宾。接下来我把主持权交给张岩主任。
那我们各位嘉宾，大家就坐了吧。那很感谢能有这次机会啊，能够向各位专家、各位同行同仁，能够学习红树林生态系统在气候变化在各种方面发挥的巨大的作用。那么这个我相信刚才那4个报告，大家肯定都觉得非常的精彩啊。那这个可能大家也都有问题想跟这个专家进一步交流。那既然作为这个环节的主持人，我可能就有这个近水楼台先得月的这个优势，所以我现在有这么几个问题啊，想跟这个几位专家探讨或者这个研究一下的。So my first question is to Vidrin. We know from your presentations that Indonesia has the largest mangrove distribution across the world. And we know Indonesia is a large, very diverse country with lots of islands, many minority groups. And so I would like to know, how would you mobilize different stakeholder groups, leverage societal forces, and so as to participate in, to support the conservation and restoration of the world's largest mangroves?
Thank you very much for your interesting question. So yes, indeed, we have Indonesia has the largest mangrove in the world, and this is our challenge: how to mobilize all the stakeholders to participate in mangrove management. So for that, our government has established what we call the National Mangrove Committee. So it involved all ministries that are related with mangroves, like Ministry of Environment and Forestry, Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Affairs, Ministry of the National Agency, and etc. So there are ministries that are involved, but also universities, and then also communities, local champions, and private sectors. So under the national level, we have developed like a group, a working group for mangrove management. But then for each province, we have like 40 provinces in Indonesia. So for each province, we also develop a provincial mangrove working group. For those working groups are in charge for mainstreaming mangrove management in each province. And then for each district, then we do have also like smaller groups involving local communities, in particular, to do the mangrove restoration and also the conservation. And then currently, we also have many donors for mangrove rehabilitation, such as from the World Bank. So we have a loan for about $400 million to restore these 600,000 hectares by 2024. So, and then from Germany, from Japan, etc. So I think at this moment, the awareness of not only from the national level, but also from global stakeholders are now increasing to help the protection and rehabilitation of mangroves in Indonesia. Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. From those further information that Viri has just provided with us, we can see that mangroves is really mainstreamed. It's everywhere within the Indonesian society. Hopefully, we will have the same situation in China, at least within the coastal provinces, where mangroves distribute and really function. And I really hope that later on, China will have more opportunities to work with Indonesian colleagues to really conserve the mangroves, those valuable ecosystem across the world. 那第二个问题就是给陈所的啊，这个我们在滨海论坛这2天，当然我们听到了很多中国在这个滨海啊，或者是海岸带保护修复这方面取得的巨大的成效。当然，我们跟自然资源部也发布了这个案例，也有很多这个相关的这样的一些成效啊。当然，我们也知道3所在海洋生态这个方面，在国内还是比较领先的、比较支柱的啊。那么，我想问您一下，在这个巨大的成效这个背后，肯定是有政治意愿，也有很多的这个不懈的行动和努力了。当然，这个科学跟研究，那在这个中间毫无疑问，可能是发挥一个这样的一个支撑作用。那么，我想请您给我们介绍一下科学研究，大概是如何来支持滨海湿地的生态保护、修复和有效管理的。
好，谢谢主持人哈。这个给我一个问题呢，正好我是比较好回答的，因为我从研究所出来的，讲科学研究相对来说比较拿手，相对那个哈，讲科学研究支撑我们滨海湿地的修复啊，其实主要是2个层面。第一个层面呢，其实就我们要就是基础研究方面的这方面，还有一个就是应用技术的开发。那这2个层面呢，从第一个层面来说的话，最主要的就是我们要做一些修复啊，特别好像针对红树林啊什么，我们首先要了解这个生态系统退化的一些机理，另外呢，还有它恢复啊，包括它演替的一些过程的这些研究。那这个其实是我们在做修复工作的一个最前期的一个工作。你只有了解了我们这些生态系统它退化的机理啊，它的原因所在啊，这样后面啊，我们才能对症下药，采取有针对性的措施。那这一方面呢，其实这几年呢，在中国政府在这方面呢，其实投入也非常大。包括今年，其实我们国家也一直在强调要加强基础科学研究，就是说，就是我们想从根源上面啊，解决就是我们后端的技术的这方面的就是开发。那这是第一个从基础研究层面的哈。那第二块呢，就是从技术研发层面呢，这一块其实我们也是从几个方面来讲。第一个就是我们首先要考虑的就是，因为我们一个是从宏观的规划层面的这方面的技术。那因为现在我们强调的就生态系统的修复要讲究它的系统性和整体性，我们要考虑它的一个宏观的整个规划是怎么设计的。那这方面呢，其实我们就是要做好这方面的顶层设计，然后后续的我们才能够有序的开展这些包括红树林这类生态系统的生态修复。那这几年呢，其实3所在这方面也做了一些工作，特别是其实包括我们那个关成博士在讲 PPT 的时候也讲到的，就是针对于我们的重要生态系统的生态保护修复的重大工程规划，还有就是海岸带生态保护修复的建设规划，以及“14·5”的海洋生态修复的行动计划。那这些都是其实我们做了大量的技术支撑工作。那这些规划其实在这几年啊，都在自然资源部已经跟发改委已经正式颁布实施，就为我们做好了顶层设计这一块。那第二个层面呢，就针对一些就是我们具体的这些不同类型的生态系统的生态修复的技术研发这一块。那这些方面的研究呢，其实也是应该说是从不同层面来进行的。那从它的修复的对象来说的话，从修复的成分来说的话，那应该来说是包括最主要是2个方面，一个就是非生物的一些环境，这个包括就是 Dr. Huki 就在介绍的水文地貌这些方面，其实是我们生态修复的一个最基础的。还有一个就是生物的组分， 包括我们红树林种植啊这方面。那这些技术的研发，都是为我们提供就是后续的开展大规模的修复提供基础的。那从修复的对象来说的话，这几年其实在我们中国啊，其实主要是针对一些典型生态系统，最主要就是红树林啊、海草床啊、珊瑚礁啊，还有盐藻啊。那做的最成熟的还是红树这一块。那红树林呢，有包括其实也包括就是一个就是水文地貌的环境的恢复，还有就是湿生地的选取，还有就是包括它的一些这个种植的技术啊这些方面啊，都开展了大量的研究工作。那这些呢，其实我们都是把它总结成有关的技术指南和相关的国家标准、行业标准。那在我们中国呢进行颁布实施，就指导我们具体的一些实施单位啊在进行。那最后一个层面呢，其实我们还考虑到就是什么呢？就是我们修复以后的，就是我们的监测跟成效评估的技术这一块。那因为我们做了大量的这些修复工作，到底它的成效如何？那这些是要大量的技术来支持的。我们通过的最主要就是一些监测，还有就成效评估的技术，来判断我们到底修复的成效如何。那这一块工作啊，其实前面的几个专家在做报告的时候都有提及到，其实我们现在的这个评估它的成效的时候啊，以前比较看重的是生态系统的结构，但现在这几年其实大家可以看哈，最典型的大家都谈到红树林的蓝碳，其实这个是针对生态系统的功能的，所以这个在我们的监测跟修复成效评估的时候，在这些指标选取上面啊，将来都有大量的研究工作要做，好吧？我主要就讲这2个层面的科学研究的支撑工作。好，谢谢。
好的，谢谢陈所。陈所根据陈所的这个介绍，我们当然知道中国在这个修复啊、保护啊方面的技术积累肯定是有很多的。那么我们也希望能够在未来这些相关的经验、这些做法，不光能够成为行标、成为国标，在中国用。那么真正的以后未来能不能跟国际的同行能够合作，真正的能够成为国际的这样的一些标准，或者说是一些指南，那么真正的推动一下这个国际红树林保护和修复的事业。The following question is to Jorge. Mr. Chen has introduced the monitoring is a key part also in mangrove restoration. And in your presentation, I can see there are a lot of science and technologies involved for planting, for restoration, for monitoring. But the question is that planting, restoration, monitoring have to be done by people and have to be supported by funding. It probably need a political permit. That's why possibly, similar to what Viring has explained, introduced us. So specifically, in Mexico, how would you mobilize different societal forces to support mangrove protection restoration, to really implement those cutting-edge technologies and science in practice and really contribute to improving the status of Mexico's mangroves, please?
Hello. Hello? Yeah. Well, it has been step-up work, but we have to demonstrate that after doing the actions, there has to be monitoring, because it can go wrong. And we have to be conscious it can go wrong, and sometimes it can take 1 year or 2 years to find out that. If we have the data, then we can say how good it's going to be, and ask the stakeholders for the support. So I think that now the government offices are open to doing the monitoring, to pay for the monitoring, and also the private sectors or the non-governmental areas are interested in knowing, which will be the measurements of success. And also, I have to say that some of the restoration projects done in Mexico and elsewhere have failed. And we have to know why they failed. And sometimes when the projects fail, this is hidden or forgotten. And there are lessons to be learned. And that only happens if you do the monitoring.
Do you think sometimes the NGOs and communities are involved in the monitoring?
They should be, because otherwise, how can they be sure that the money is well spent? Because they need to know. For example, Professor was talking about carbon accumulation, and this is a very the sampling and then the analysis of the soil to see how much carbon has been gained and compared to how much carbon existed after the rest when the land was empty. Has some technology to be done and some expense. And also biodiversity, because the carbon is important, but what is important is to recover all the services that the mangrove had, and all the services that are associated with the community that is working on the mangrove. So yes, of course, the NGOs or whatever, even the government, they have to be interested in monitoring these projects.
Thanks a lot. 我最后这个问题想问窦秘书长啊，像刚才这个侯黑他也提到了，有企业开始对这个在墨西哥对红树林的修复保护开始感兴趣。那么我们也知道这个蚂蚁集团，当然大家可能基本上都在用支付宝啊，就像我刚才是抢到了国内最近大热的某款手机，所以刚才用支付宝付了钱。那这几天我有几位的国外的同事也帮他们设了这个支付宝账号来付这个打车钱等等等，所以这个我们知道在支付宝上还有一个应用就是蚂蚁森林，那可能全国或者全球有超过6亿用户在用。那么我们也知道这个蚂蚁森林已经最近这2年吧，它工作开始从最开始的荒漠化治理种树开始挪向滨海湿地的保护跟修复。那么我想问您一下，在您看来，就这个社会公益力量、企业的力量，在这个滨海湿地的保护修复中，能够发挥什么样的这样的一些作用？
我觉得2点吧。第一个问题其实是，国家也说了，就社会资本参与生态修复，除了咱们这种生态修复类企业，还有一些企业它是那种公益性捐赠的。但其实在国内，尽管滨海湿地很热，但绝大多数的企业它过去没有接触过这个领域的时候，它真的想去捐赠做一些这样的公益项目，它是找不到一个好的渠道的。第2点就是刚才也另外一个刚刚大家也说，很多其实国内的专业的修复种在哪儿，怎么种，技术的这些方面，从一家非专业的这种企业角度，它是没有一个很好的路径去研究这些东西的。但你要求他去用很多的时间去做这些功课，显然这个并不是他主业的工作。所以其实我们在过去的1-2年所做的一些探索，包括跟 SE 的合作、跟3所的合作，解决一个问题。今天如果有一家企业，我今天不是想做一个投资，我只是想做一个公益项目的捐赠的时候，我可以像一个平台加一个插件一样，用现成的专业技术能力，用现成的这个实施的方案，然后我只要做好我的捐赠，其他后面的事情像这个托管式的，就交给后面我们整个这套为海行动的这个平台就能解决掉。其实这个我们也看到，在过去1年里面，很多的企业品牌和资金的投入，其实是帮助这些企业找到了这样一个能够参与到滨海修复、红树林修复的一个方式。第2个问题其实就是，我觉得我们从国内一个非常大的，刚才我们提到印尼是一个红树林保有量很大的地方，在中国人口也是一个非常大的资源禀赋，我们怎么去利用这个人口去做一些探索？所以今天我们在中国所探索的一种方式，就是我们怎么让红树林和人建立一种情感的链接。我们知道，在这种滨海湿地的社区，当海来的时候，或者一些灾害来的时候，红树林像家人一样保护了这个家园的安全。社区的这个居民，他对红树林是有很强的认知和感情的。但对于很多城市人口，他不了解这个情况。我们怎么去建立一个链接？所以我们今天采用的一个方式就是说，我们在线上让用户去种树的时候，其实线下我们是通过自己企业捐赠资金帮大家在种。但这时候有一个好处什么呢？我们可以让红树林变成家人。什么意思？今天比如说你有一个孩子，你的孩子上学，你需要有一个纪念，你需要过生日有个纪念，然后我们会让用户在他这些很重要的生日啊、结婚纪念日种种活动里面， 去给这个自己的那天种一棵树，去增加一种仪式感。包括现在我们开的合种，可能就一群人、一个班、一个单位的人可以一起去种一棵红树。通过这个过程，它解决一个好的问题是什么呢？是今天这个原本在遥远之外与我看起来关系不大的树，变成了我家庭生活里一个很有里程碑的 milestone 的一个纪念的时候，他对这件事的关注度会很高。所以每一个公众，他都可能会变成一个从原来不了解到了解，甚至到开始主动的保护的一个过程。另外一个就是今天我们在海洋项目上采取一个方式，是一个减速嘛。今天所有的用户，你想去种植红树，你要去少用塑料袋，你要去少点外卖。那这个方式里面就会有一个问题，其实今天我们很好的通过这种方式去把海洋减速和红树林的修复做了一个结合。今天我们大概在过去1年多的这个运转过程中，有几千万用户每天都在蚂蚁森林里、神奇海洋里做互动。我们大概在去年1年已经在线下实施了将近100公顷的项目。尽管这个项目放到国家的这些工程里面它很小，但是一个很有意思的点是，每一棵树都是一个用户可能几个月去坚持减速的生活方式带来的。所以我觉得它带来的意义，可能对于大家就是用改变自己的生活方式和改变环境的这个结合的平衡驱动，这个事情其实我觉得对于公众是很有意义的。特别是在中国这样一个人口非常大的国家，我觉得这样的工作其实对于把一些现在我们在国家政策上做的东西，让更多的群众有更多的了解，还是有很多的帮助和借鉴意义的。
好的，谢谢窦秘书长啊。我们这个当然也希望这个蚂蚁森林。当然，对我们来说，当然是一个巨大的创新，使得我们有机会能够跟公众离得更近，使得我们有机会能够让更多的人能够参与到自然的生态保护。那今天时间不多了，我到最后也就不再占用各位的时间了。我希望我们再次感谢各位专家。红树林保护虽然在中国可能是这个很小的面积、很小的数字，但是在世界上其他很多的地方，那可能是意味着大家的这个很多数以百万人的生计，很多城市的城市的安全，考虑到气候变化，考虑到保护生态性，那也希望以后未来我们能有机会能够推动更好的科学研究监测，能够推动更好的社会参与，能够推动更好的这个社会公益力量、企业的支持，能够推动更好的科学研究标准，能够加强更好的这个政治意愿。红树林保护的主流化，来共同促进红树林生态系统的保护。再次感谢各位。那么这个最后我花一点时间啊，这个大家可能知道 IUCN 是一个以知识产品为主的这么一个机构啊，但是除了物种红色名录啊等等等，我们还发布其他很多的报告。那这个我们跟自然资源部大概3年前发布了一个基于自然解决方案典型案例。那中间收录了中国的10大案例，其中有一个案例是深圳湾的红树林的保护修复，详细的说明了修复一个红树林生态系统对于深圳这个城市是能够使得它更好的应对气候变化的风险，使得它更好的应对灾害的风险。那么我们也很高兴在这个案例中，也有社会力量深圳红树林基金会的参与。下一张，谢谢。那么我们当然，在这个论坛上，我们也新发布了一份新的报告《湿地与基于自然解决方案》。那在这个报告里头，我们很荣幸的能有机会，当然这个报告是我们跟创立公益研究院还有 SE 的支持，我们共同来在老牛基金会的支持下，也都是一些社会力量来做的这份报告。报告里头收录了来自湛江红树林中国第一个蓝碳生态系统。蓝碳交易的这个一个案例。那么我们都知道，湛江红树林的这个蓝碳案例是SE 基金会跟海洋3所共同完成的。那么我们也知道，当然红树林的吸碳固碳的功能，它的应对气候变化或者是减灾的功能，促进地方生计、社区可持续发展的功能，那么在这个案例也得到了比较充分的体现。那最后的一个也是我们希望当然那儿有个2维码，大家感兴趣的话可以扫一下码，可以下载这份报告。最后为了指导各位啊，当然我们说红树林生态保护是基于自然解决方案，当然盐沼、海草床等也是基于自然解决方案。下一章，谢谢。为了帮助大家更好的 这个开展怎么着，这个开展一个基于自然解决方案的这样的一个项目。但是我们也在 SE 基金会的支持之下，现在正在编写这个基于自然解决方案项目操作手册。那么估计会在今年能够正式出版。那么我们也希望有这些出版物，有这些知识产品，能够使大家更好的开展红树林的以及其他生态系统的保护、恢复和可持续管理，使得这个红树林跟其他生态系统能够更好的帮助我们人类社会应对各种的可持续发展的挑战，更好的为我们创造一个人与自然和谐的美好明天。那最后，谢谢大家，也再次感谢我们4位嘉宾。主持人，那请各位也落座休息吧。
非常感谢张岩主任的这个精彩的主持。我有一个数据，然后向各位嘉宾来汇报。我们线上的这个听众人数，在我们平行论坛之前是1.8万，然后在张主任和4位嘉宾精彩的报告之下，我们的听众人数一下子涨到了4.9万，就再次印证了多方参与、多方共同来合作开展红树林保护修复，可以吸引更多的人的关注。尤其当窦瑞副秘书长提到蚂蚁森林的时候，我就发现我们那个数字在不断的上涨。看来蚂蚁森林这个6.5亿人的带动能力还是相当有力的。那么刚才的话，在各位嘉宾的介绍过程中的话，其实我这边最后耽误大家一点点时间，给我们做一点点小的这个广告和宣传。那么在过去的这个3年的时间里，我们基金会和自然资源部第3海洋研究所共同合作，主要也是在配合自然资源部相关的红树林保护和修复的工作。那么在去年的6月8号，我们发起了喂海行动。那么这个喂海行动的话，刚才在陈光诚研究员的报告里面，大家也可能看到了 Andrew for Oceans。蔚蓝海洋喂海行动，我们希望呢，通过我们的社会公益的力量，能够为大家、为我们共同有一个美好和健康的海洋生态系统。那么，在蚂蚁森林基金会的支持下，那么我们的参与的人数、动员的人数也越来越多。那么，截止到目前为止的话，我们有超过3800亩的红树林和海草床得到了修复。那么接下来的话，我们还会探索更多的珊瑚礁生态系统的修复，也希望得到各位的支持。那么今天呢，我们基金会给各位发言的嘉宾准备了这个红树林里面的典型的物种招潮蟹的一个手办。如果大家感兴趣的话，那个谁可以帮我拿下那个手办，展示一下。如果现场的观众和线上的嘉宾感兴趣的话，可以扫描我们的2维码，然后来支持我们相关的海洋保护工作。那么大家的话也可以同时得到这样一个可爱的招潮蟹的手办，给大家可以看一下，展示一下。红树林等蓝碳生态系统保护的工作的话，离不开社会各界的共同努力。绿水青山就是金山银山，希望在社会各界的支持下，红树林等蓝碳生态系统的保护修复工作能够得到更持久的发展。再次感谢各位现场和线上的嘉宾，谢谢大家。本次研讨会闭幕，感谢。